Basketball season is upon us. Will Montana State and Eastern Washington defend their tournament titles, or will we crown a new champion? The road to Boise begins now. Welcome to Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off presented by Idaho Central Credit Union. Welcome into Big Sky Tip Off. I'm Megan Robinson. This episode is all about Eastern Washington. The women are entering 2024 as reigning regular season and Big Sky tournament champions. Do they have what it takes to repeat? Joining me now from the Eagles are head coach Jody Gleason and Ellie Bonai. Last season, you were named Big Sky Coach of the Year, led your team to a regular season and tournament championship. What are the expectations for you and your team entering 24-25?
We are excited for the season. We have a group of 8 returners and a large group of eight newcomers as well. But we're just focusing on meshing as a team and focusing on getting better 1% every day. And our goal is always to compete for Big Sky championships. Our goal we know is lofty. It's a tough conference, and we just think that we have the tools and the players to get in that, get in the mix, get in the picture for that top third of conference.
I'm really excited. I think it is really, really cool to kind of have that target on our back still, knowing that we are reigning champs. But I feel like this team has been fantastic and we can handle that pressure, and I think we could still be back-to-back champs.
Ellie, last year was your first year in Cheney after transferring from San Jose State. Where do you think your biggest area of growth was between year one in Cheney to this year in year two?
A lot of people talk about kind of like the physical aspect of basketball, but for me, it was really kind of the mental. I feel like my confidence went really skyrocketed ever since being here back at Eastern Washington. I think the coaching staff put a lot of confidence in me, which was great, and I really appreciated it. So obviously that reflects back onto the court with being confident in my shot, being confident myself on the court. I had teammates surrounding me that really helped me in that area as well. So I think my confidence getting back into basketball and being like, yes, I can do this.
We've always believed in her, and she was a instrumental part of our success last year. And now she just has kind of a new role. So we're running more plays through her. We expect her to be a good leader. So that's another area where she's really trying to improve and grow. And she isn't the most vocal person, but she leads by example by working hard all the time and saying the right things at the right times.
Coach, one of the big losses to your team who had a major impact on your team last season was, of course, Jamie Loetta, Big Sky MVP. She graduated this year. How do you replace a player like that?
It's tough. Jamie's kind of one of those players that we're fortunate to coach for a couple of years and don't come around all that often. We actually just hired her as part of our staff, so she's able to be a leader and show our players the ropes and really help our point guards, our combo guards to understand what it takes to compete at this level. So we still have her around, so we're happy about that.
Ellie, how has it been for you having Jamie going from your teammate to your coach this season?
That's so funny. We were literally talking about this yesterday. I love it. It's been great having Jamie back, in the basketball atmosphere. Obviously, as a teammate, she was great, but as a coach, it's been fantastic because she has such a high IQ that it's great that she can implement that to us.
Coach, the other interesting dynamic of your coaching staff is, of course, your husband, the associate head coach. What's it like going to work with him every day?
He's great. We have a great relationship, both, on and off the court. We've obviously been doing this for, I was trying to count, I think 17 years of coaching together. And then we've coached separately as well. But, if we wouldn't do it if we wouldn't continue doing it if it didn't work. So it's fun. He's a great basketball mind. He really is into the analytics. He knows his X's and O's. He's a great teacher and recruiter. And it's just, for us, it's fun to be able to, share our experiences at work, with your spouse, and you have your highs and your lows, but it's always, it's always nice to kind of go through it together. And we started out separately coaching on two different staffs, and it just was a challenge because you're traveling different places. You win a championship and your spouse isn't there, and so it's joining forces years back has really been good for us.
After the break, hear from the Eastern Washington men's team.
We focus on youth sports because we truly believe that youth are the foundation of Montana's future. I think nothing improves your mental health and well-being and your physical health and well-being than being outside, active, talking to other people, and socializing in an environment like that. Learning teamwork, learning leadership skills, resiliency. As a company, we're deeply invested in our communities, not just our members.
Welcome back to Big Sky Tip-Off. I'm Megan Robinson. The Eastern Washington men's team hired Dan Monson as their new head coach this offseason. He's with me now alongside sophomore guard Sebastian Hartman. Coach, you're entering your first season at the helm of the Eagles after being hired in April. How have the last 6 months been?
Professionally, it's been awesome. It's been taking over a program that's got some history to it, that has had a great culture, that Coach Riley left here as far as the players understanding the work ethic and what it takes to win at this level. So I've really enjoyed being around the holdover guys that stayed here when I got the job, and the new guys we brought in.
Sebastian, what has Coach Monson brought to this program in his short time in Cheney?
I would say a lot. First of all, I'd say experience. That's the biggest thing about him. No one can take away over 500 D1 wins, and I think that's a huge factor. And we as a team have really bought into that, and we believe in the system. The biggest change, I would say, it's definitely more defensive focus if you compare us to the last year's how Eastern Washington under David Riley played.
Coach, you might be new to the conference this year. However, you are no stranger to the Big Sky. Your dad was the head coach for Idaho and led the Vandals to the Sweet 16 back in 1982. What did you learn from your dad that you've applied to your own career?
I wouldn't be sitting here without my dad. I always say my dad and Judd Heathcote taught me what it is to be a coach. Dan Fitzgerald from Gonzaga taught me how to coach. But it's been in my blood. And I think learning what it is to be a coach is probably more valuable than how to coach. There's just so much more that goes into it than just what offense you're running or what defense you're in. To be able to get guys to all buy into a common cause is gets trickier every year. But my dad and Judd were great ambassadors, and Judd was great for the Big Sky too at Montana. So I have some great idols that were legends in this league to look up to.
Sebastian, Coach is talking about the idols who he looks up to and who he's modeled his career after. Who are some of the players that you look up to in basketball in general, not necessarily in the Big Sky?
I would say it's a guy in Europe, Vladimir Lucic. He was one of the first guys when I got to practice with the pros for Bayern Munich. That could really teach me what it takes to play on that level. And he's definitely one of my mentors, or not one of my mentors, but he was the first one I've really seen what it takes to be a pro, and I've been looking up to him since.
Coach, Sebastian is one of a handful of international players on your roster. What's the coolest part of having such a melting pot in that locker room?
I think the best thing about international players is they're not Americanized. I think American basketball players get a little bit spoiled on the amenities that come with being a Division I athlete. And I just love, they're thirsty. They haven't had as much coaching. They haven't had as much game experience. They're just, to sacrifice their personal life to come clear across the world to learn something like that just shows their dedication, and they're just so thirsty for knowledge and grateful for the opportunity. It's really makes every day when you wake up so fun, because you got guys that appreciate being coached and appreciate, the opportunities that are in front of them.
Coach, again, year one in Cheney. What do you hope to accomplish this season?
I would hope to like to win a Big Sky championship. I think that's answer is probably the same across the board with every coach. I think we all get in this to win. We all get into this to go to the NCAA tournament. I was able to go last year. I would love to take, kind of full circle. I started my career here in the Spokane area at Gonzaga, and I'd like to finish it here the way I started with some success in the NCAA tournament.
Coming up, Coulter Nuanez and Krista Redpath join the show to give us a breakdown of Big Sky basketball.
We never set out to be the largest casino resort in the Pacific Northwest. We just wanted to be the best. But we forgot that being the best means more guests wanting more action, more jackpots, more big-name entertainment, more pedicures. Well, more everything. Until one day, you look up and realize, we need a new hotel tower. The new River Tower, to be exact. Northern Quest in Spokane, Washington. Now the largest. And yes, still the best.
Welcome back to Big Sky Tip-Off. I'm Megan Robinson, joined now by two of our Big Sky basketball analysts, Krista Redpath and Coulter Nuanez. Guys, let's just get right to it. What were your initial thoughts on the Big Sky basketball preseason rankings? Coulter, I'll go to you first.
It's interesting when you analyze the men's league because there's so few returners these last couple of years. That's sort of a symptom of where we're at in Division I college basketball. But the one school that has had returners two off seasons in a row has been Montana, and I think that that's reflected when you look at the polls. Last year they returned 6 guys, which is an unheard of number for mid-major teams, and this year they have a couple stalwarts coming back, led by Brandon Whitney, who's going to be sort of an unprecedented 5th-year starter there at Montana.
I wasn't shocked on the women's side. I really expected NAU to come out on top when you look at the fact that they played in the conference championship the last 3 years. They return a nucleus of players led by preseason MVP Sophie Glancy and also Leah Beatty at the guard position, returning both the Moran sisters, and you mix in a Taylor Feldman and a Sanaya Neverson. And I look at NAU just having that nucleus back, but also just a year of maturity under their belt. And so I wasn't shocked by that. I look at the Montana schools battling out, both Montana State and Montana. When you take a look at Montana State, they also were faced with injuries last year, but this year, with the transfer of Esmeralda Morales, as well as Lexi Deedon possibly coming back from this ACL, they're loaded. They're locked and loaded.
Montana State men have reached 3 consecutive NCAA tournaments after winning 3 Big Sky tournament titles. Who would be the dark horse on the men's side to maybe dethrone the Bobcats?
First of all, I thought it was interesting that Montana State got so much love in the preseason polls because they do lose a lot. Of course, they return Brian Garacki, they return Brandon Walker, but Robert Ford was the heart and soul of that team. So he's certainly going to be tough to replace. I actually probably would have said that Montana State would have been one of my dark horses if they weren't so highly rated in the preseason polls, but they got a whole bunch of respect in the preseason polls. One team that Krista and I actually previewed on our series Big Sky Hoops Hits 2 weeks ago is Northern Arizona on the men's side. I think that they have more continuity than a lot of the other teams in the league. You look at Trenton McLaughlin, who's leading returning scorer in the league, really, really talented guy. You look at Carson Tout, he's my kind of player. I mean, he's the guy that could fit in on every single team in the Big Sky Conference. He doesn't need to shoot it. He doesn't need to dribble it. He just nets screens and rebounds and plays defense. Northern Arizona, I know, was picked in the middle of the league, but I think they could definitely make some noise. They proved it last year. I mean, they beat every good team in the league at least once. They just have to figure out a way to sweep some of those good teams to get into that top third of the league standings.
Coulter, you just brought up Trent McLaughlin from NAU. He, of course, is the preseason MVP in the Big Sky. Krista, you mentioned Sophie Clancy, the women's MVP. I'll start with you, Krista. Did the voters get it right choosing those 2 Lumberjacks as our preseason MVPs?
Well, I think they definitely did. When you look at these players and what they have contributed to the Big Sky, and of course I can allude to Sophie Glancy just being a force down low. I mean, she was a unanimous first team All Big Sky Conference selection last year. Her physical skills, strength, agility, quickness around the basket. She really separated herself.
On the men's side, I think he could have got a variety of different ways, but Trent McLaughlin's certainly a worthy candidate, no doubt. It's a great story there at NAU too. First of all, they've poured a bunch of money into athletics, which I think is benefiting them a bunch. You've seen both their basketball programs get better, but also the McLaughlin brothers are one of the great stories in the Big Sky, right? Like Alex McLaughlin's one of the best football players in the conference. Trent, his older brother, one of the best basketball players in the conference. And you have to think that both those guys probably had opportunities to go elsewhere. They didn't because they're there together. That's a cool story. So hopefully that resonates with people.
Krista and Culture, we know NAU women, Montana, and Montana State men are the favorites in both the coaches and the media polls to win the Big Sky Conference this year. Krista, I will go to you first. Who are you picking to win the Big Sky Conference? Give me both your men's and women's picks.
Well, I definitely had NAU to win, with the Montana schools really coming in hot. And on the men's side as well, I think Coach DeCure has done a fantastic job bringing in some really great transfers, but also building around Brandon Whitney. I mean, he's one of the only Grizz players to average double figures for all 4 of his years playing for Montana, just a veteran guard. I also think with the transfer of Patterson from Sac State at the guard position, Montana definitely has all the weapons to look like they are in the forefront to win the Big Sky.
I picked Montana State. And the reason I picked Montana State is I think that Tricia Binford has established herself as the most consistent and best coach in the conference. I thought last year was one of her best coaching jobs. I remember a post that they had on their Instagram page of their bench celebrating, and their bench was KJ Lamardo and Taylor Jansen and Lexi Deedon and all these all-league caliber players that were all hurt. And Tricia Binford got through that season, and they made a run at it. I mean, they were in the semifinals last year. They finished 4th, even though they had more injury bad luck than I've ever seen. You bring all that back, you bring in Esmeralda Morales, and I just think they have a chance to be a really special team. On the men's side, I voted for Montana just because they have the most returners, but I think it's so wide open with all these new players and so many new roster complexions throughout the league. We really just won't know. It's going to take till February until these teams really coalesce. They really start working the ball around and playing together. And look at what happened last year. I mean, Montana State was up and down all year long. But then they coalesced and they played so well down the stretch. And then they had one of the great tournament runs we have ever seen. So that's what it's going to take. Who comes together at the end? Who plays down the stretch? Travis DeCure has proven he can get his team to do that at Montana. Matt Logie, same thing at Montana State. And I think there's a couple other coaches like Eric Duft at Weber and Steve Smiley at Northern Colorado that have proven that as well. So who can get their team to come together? Even though I voted for Montana, I think the men's side is wide open.
Krista Coulter, less than 5 months, and we will see who is crowned a new champion up in Boise. Can't wait to see you both at that tournament. Still to come, what can fans expect from our championship week? Our friends from Visit Boise stop by to share all the city has to offer.
Yeah, definitely. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye.
All right. Thanks. All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Welcome back to Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off. I'm Megan Robinson. Our tournament is in Boise every year, so who better to have on the show than someone from Visit Boise, Lucas Gebhardt. The tournament has been in Boise since 2019. What impact does the Big Sky Basketball Tournament have on the city of Boise?
We think it's about a $6.5 million total economic impact to the city. And so that what we mean by that is all the hotel spending, all of the money that's spent at restaurants and shops and ticket sales and things like that. We think about 13,000 people or so go to the tournament. That includes local fans as well as fans that are traveling to Boise. And we think about 4,300 fans or so travel to Boise to watch this tournament from the various Big Sky markets. So it definitely has a huge impact for the city, and we're excited to have it once again in 25.
For those who have not been to Boise, like myself, what kinds of things can they expect to do there outside of the tournament?
The cool part about our tournament is all the fans can stay in our downtown hotels and be walking distance from the game. So if you fly, you don't have to rent a car. Our airport's 7 minutes, our downtown is 7 minutes away from our airport. We have tons of great outdoor recreation activities. We have a 30-mile long bike trail that runs along our river, both sides of our river. We also have tons of hot springs that are within a couple hours drive of Boise. Some are under an hour from Boise. We have a great wine country that's about 45 minutes outside of downtown as well. So Idaho's got some really underrated wine that we definitely want people to check out if they end up coming here. We were rated by National Geographic as one of the best in the world destinations to visit in 2025. So that's something that we just got awarded. We're pretty excited about that. So we got lots of things to do here, whether it's our great restaurant scene or outdoor recreation or just the walkable and accessibility to all the things to do in our downtown.
One of the big things that people want to know when they go to a new city is, where are some of the restaurants that I must try?
Some of the best restaurants in town are some of our Basque restaurants. We have an entire block in our downtown that's dedicated to that Basque culture and that Basque heritage. We also have a restaurant in downtown called Kin that their chef just won a James Beard Award. That's the first James Beard Award that any restaurant or chef in our city has won. So that's something else that we're pretty excited about.
I can't wait to get up there and experience Boise in a few months for myself. And I appreciate you taking time to put a spotlight on your city.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for previewing the season with me on Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off presented by Idaho Central Credit Union. I'm your host, Megan Robinson, and I can't wait to see you all in Boise in March.